My name is Elias Vance, and I'm a structural engineer. I spend my days ensuring that the hidden skeletons of buildings, the steel beams, the load-bearing columns, the concrete foundations are sound enough to withstand generations of gravity, wind, and the occasional seismic shudder. My world is one of physics, of calculable stress and predictable failure points. I've always taken a quiet pride in creating things that last, things that are fundamentally real. The irony of that conviction isn't lost on me now, considering how I allowed my own life to be built on a foundation of sand. It all started 2 years ago at a housewarming party in a meticulously renovated Victorian. The host, my old college buddy Leo, had just sunk his life savings into a place with exposed brick walls and reclaimed hardwood floors that made you question every practical decision you'd ever made. I was nursing a beer, feigning interest in a conversation about the blockchain's impact on real estate, when I saw her. Her name was Audra Croft. She was in the kitchen, leaning against a marble countertop, rolling her eyes at a man in a blazer who was passionately explaining the terroir of a natural wine. She wore a simple black dress and a pair of worn leather boots that looked like they had stories to tell, not just a price tag. There was an immediate, gravitational pull. When the blazer-clad sommelier finally moved on, I seized my moment, approaching with 2 fresh beers. On a scale of 1 to root canal, I started, "How was that conversation?" She let out a laugh that was refreshingly genuine, a sound that cut through the party's pretentious hum. Somewhere between a surprise audit and being trapped in an elevator with him for eternity. We talked for the rest of the night. She worked in public relations, helping small, local businesses find their voice. She spoke with a fiery ambition about helping companies show who they actually were, not who they pretended to be. "I'm interested in authenticity," she said, her eyes alight with a conviction I found irresistible. In a room full of people performing their best selves, Audra felt like the only real person there. By the end of the week, we were on our first date at a hole-in-the-wall Vietnamese place she knew, the kind with plastic chairs and the best pho in Colorado. The conversation flowed as easily as it had at the party. She asked thoughtful questions about my work, not just the polite, surface-level kind, but questions that showed she was actually listening. She laughed at my terrible jokes about shear walls and seemed genuinely fascinated by my weekend hobby, woodworking. "You build furniture? That's incredible, Elias," she'd said, leaning forward, her chin resting in her hand. "There's something so honest about creating a physical object, you know? Something real you can touch." She got it, or at least I thought she did. On our third date, I took her hiking near Boulder. It was early spring, and our breath plumed in the cold mountain air. At the summit, overlooking a panorama of snow-dusted peaks, she took exactly 1 photo with her phone. Then she put it away. She just stood there beside me, taking in the view, her shoulder pressed against mine. In a world of people experiencing life through a screen, that simple act felt profound. This was different, I thought. She was different. Our relationship moved quickly. Within 3 months, her toothbrush had a permanent home in my bathroom, and most of her nights were spent at my downtown loft. My life, which had been a well-ordered blueprint of work, the gym, and my workshop, was suddenly filled with color and spontaneity. She was smart, driven, and seemed to celebrate the parts of me that others found boring. She'd sit in my workshop for hours, watching me work, running her hands over a newly sanded piece of walnut, her touch a silent form of admiration. The foundation we were building felt solid, engineered to last. I was sure of it. The first edit to our blueprint was so subtle, I barely registered it. About 6 months in, I finished a coffee table I'd been working on for months. My first piece using complex dovetail joinery. I was immensely proud of it. Audra came over to celebrate, bringing takeout and a bottle of wine. "This is beautiful, Elias." "Truly," she said, her fingers tracing the lines of the joints. "You're so talented." Then she pulled out her phone. "Let me get a picture for my Instagram." The post went up with a caption full of hashtags. Number boyfriend talent, number craftsmanship, number handmade magic, number blessed. It got over 400 likes, far more than her usual posts. At the time, I felt a swell of pride. Looking back, I see that moment for what it was. The laying of the first brick in a wall that would eventually stand between us and reality. The small edits continued. A gentle suggestion about my wardrobe. "Babe, you've worn that flannel shirt in like 5 of my pictures. People will think it's the only one you own." Then came the comments about my hobbies. "Woodworking is cool, but it's a bit niche, you know? Have you ever thought about something more visual, like photography?" I dismissed the warning signs. I told myself it was just her professional eye bleeding into our personal life. She was building a brand, and I was part of her life. It was natural for her to care about the details. The major revision came during a weekend trip to a rustic cabin in the mountains, a year into our relationship. We were sitting under a canopy of stars, wrapped in blankets against the autumn chill. "I've been thinking about making a change," she said, her voice quiet but firm. She explained her plan to leave her PR agency and go independent, to become her own brand. She showed me the metrics on her Instagram account. Her engagement was soaring. Small companies were already reaching out for partnerships. "I've spent years building other people's brands, Elias," she said, her eyes reflecting the moonlight. "It's time I built my own. I have a voice people want to hear." I believed her. I was captivated by her courage. "And the timing is perfect," she continued, moving closer. "My lease is up next month. I've been saving, but if I'm going to do this right, I need about 6 months to establish a consistent income. We've been talking about me moving in anyway, right?" It made perfect sense. I had a stable career, a spacious 2-bedroom loft, and I was in love with her. We made a deal. I would cover the rent and our basic expenses for 6 months while she poured her energy and savings into her new venture. It felt like a partnership, 2 people supporting each other's dreams. We were architects of our own future. I helped her move in the following weekend. We spent hours arranging her clothes, which somehow required 80% of the closet space, and setting up a content corner in the second bedroom with perfect lighting. That night, lying in bed, she whispered, "We're going to build an amazing life together, Elias." I held her in my arms, feeling like the luckiest man alive, completely unaware that she had just handed me the blueprints for a life that was entirely her own design. The transformation of my home was swift. I came home from work 3 days after she moved in to find the living room buried under an avalanche of shopping bags from high-end boutiques. Audra stood in the middle of it all, twirling in a camel-colored coat that cost more than my car payment. "Investment pieces," she declared when she saw my expression. "I got invited to a winter retreat in Aspen with the Denver Lifestyle Collective. I can't show up looking basic." I picked up a receipt. The total made my stomach clench. "I thought we agreed your savings were for business development." "This is business development, Elias," she snapped, her tone suddenly sharp. "Networking is about perception. Looking the part matters. God, I thought you were supportive." I backed down immediately. What did I know about her industry? I apologized and spent the next hour helping her photograph the new outfits for her winter lookbook. That became our new dynamic. I was no longer her partner. I was her unpaid production assistant. My weekends were consumed by her content schedule. "Hold the reflector higher, Elias." "No, higher." "Can you drive me to the mountains before sunrise? I need that golden hour light for this moisturizer campaign. We have to remake dinner. The plating isn't aesthetic enough." Even our most intimate moments became potential content. She would pause mid-conversation to capture a candid moment for her Instagram stories, her smile aimed at her phone, not at me. Our real life was becoming the behind-the-scenes footage for a much more important, curated performance. The moment that still stings the most came a few months later. I'd had a major breakthrough at work, solving a complex structural problem for a new hospital wing. It was the kind of elegant, innovative solution that makes engineers feel like artists. I came home, buzzing with excitement, eager to share it with her. I found her on the dining room table, meticulously arranging skincare products in a flat lay, with rose petals and crystal facial rollers. "Audra, you won't believe what happened today. That load-bearing issue on the Memorial Hospital project, I figured out how to—" "That's great, babe," she interrupted, not looking up. "Can you help me with this? I need to get this posted before the light is gone." The air went out of me. I stood there, my professional triumph evaporating, as I watched her adjust a jade roller 1 millimeter to the left. "Sure," I said, my voice flat. "What do you need?" "Just hold this reflector at exactly a 45-degree angle, and try not to cast a shadow." She never asked about my day again. That night, her post went live with the caption, "Self-care isn't selfish, it's necessary. Number mindful moments, number me time." The irony was a physical ache in my chest. I started keeping a mental tally. How often did she ask about my work, my interests, my thoughts? The answer was almost never, unless it could be repurposed as content. Our relationship was no longer a dialogue. It was a monologue I was expected to finance and facilitate. When she hit 50,000 followers, she started getting invited to exclusive events. I would accompany her, only to be relegated to a corner while she networked. Once, at a restaurant opening, I brought her a fresh drink at a table where she was laughing with other influencers. She took the glass without looking at me and didn't even bother to introduce me. Later that night, I told her I felt excluded. Those were business connections, Elias, she sighed, scrolling through her phone. Honestly, I was doing you a favor. You would have been bored. The worst was a charity gala. I wore my best tailored suit. When we arrived, she hissed under her breath. Oh my God, is that suit from a department store? Everyone here is wearing designer? You look like you're at a job interview. She spent the rest of the evening creating a subtle but distinct physical distance between us. When a photographer approached, she angled her body away from mine, a clear, unspoken message. He's not really with me. On the drive home, I finally confronted her. You acted like you were embarrassed by me. Don't be so dramatic, she said, her eyes glued to her phone. I was working. My brand is important. Your brand? I repeated, my voice rising. What about us? She finally looked up, her expression a mixture of irritation and genuine surprise. My brand is our relationship, Elias. The beautiful apartment, the supportive boyfriend, the aspirational lifestyle. It's a package deal. That was the first time I understood. I wasn't a partner, I was a prop. A carefully selected accessory in the museum exhibit of her life. The 6-month mark we'd agreed upon was approaching. There was no mention of her contributing to the rent, no discussion of a sustainable business model beyond the next sponsored post. Then came the Miami trip. A major skincare brand had invited her to an exclusive, all-expenses-paid influencer retreat. It was her biggest opportunity yet. This is it, Elias, she'd said, her eyes shining. The guest list is insane. People with millions of followers. This could launch me into the national market. Despite the ever-widening chasm between us, a part of me still wanted her to succeed. Her success was supposed to be our success, wasn't it? I spent days helping her prepare, organizing outfits, and charging equipment. The night before she left, I tried to reclaim a piece of what we'd lost. I cooked her favorite meal, lit candles, and declared a no-phones rule. For the first 15 minutes, it felt like old times. We talked, we laughed. Then her phone buzzed, and buzzed again. Sorry, it's my friends Tiffany and Jade. They're freaking out about what to pack. Just like that, our dinner was over. She was gone, lost in a furious stream of texts and packing spreadsheets. I cleared the table in silence while she strategized with her influencer tribe. I woke at 5 a.m. to make her breakfast before the flight. She emerged from the bedroom looking less like she was traveling and more like she was heading to a photo shoot, dressed in designer jeans and a cashmere sweater that probably cost a month's worth of my groceries. You look beautiful, I said, sliding a plate of avocado toast in front of her. She glanced at it, then at her watch. Thanks, but I'm meeting Tiffany and Jade for smoothies at the terminal. We need to get some pre-flight content. Can we go? The toast sat untouched. I loaded her 3 massive suitcases for a 5-day trip into my car, and we drove to the airport in a tense silence, punctuated only by the clicking of her phone. Nervous? I asked, a final attempt to connect. Just focused, she replied without looking up. As I pulled up to the departures curb, her tone shifted, becoming oddly dismissive. Okay, just drop the bags here. I can handle it. I got out anyway. I hauled her luggage onto the sidewalk and was about to lean in for a goodbye kiss when I saw them. 2 women standing near the entrance, dressed in matching cream-colored loungewear, dripping with designer labels. Hair friends. They're over there, I said, nodding toward them. Want me to help you bring the bags over? And that's when it happened. Audra looked from her glamorous friends back to me, in my ordinary jeans, work boots, and a worn baseball cap. Her face, for a split second, was a mask of pure, unadulterated contempt. She lowered her voice. A venomous whisper meant only for me. Don't walk next to me, you'll embarrass me. Time stopped. The roar of the airport traffic faded to a hum. 5 words. 5 simple words that acted like a wrecking ball, demolishing the entire facade of our relationship in a single, devastating blow. All the excuses I had made for her, all the small compromises, all the swallowed resentments, they all crumbled to dust in that moment. What did you just say? I asked, my voice eerily calm. I needed to hear it again, to be sure. Look at them, Elias. Then look at you, she hissed. This is a professional trip. I can't have them thinking I'm with. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. I wasn't on brand. Something inside me didn't break. It solidified. It turned into something cold, hard, and clear. The fog of love and hope I'd been living in for months finally lifted, revealing the stark, ugly truth. I was a convenience, a financial safety net, a backstage crew member who was never meant to be seen by the audience. "Have a good trip," I said quietly. She looked surprised by my lack of protest, then visibly relieved. "Thanks. I'll text you when I land." Ender. She turned, grabbed her designer luggage, and walked toward her friends without a single glance back. I watched as she transformed, her posture changing, a bright, artificial smile spreading across her face as she air-kissed them. Within seconds, one of them had a phone out, filming their little squad for an airport post. I got back in my car, the echo of her 5 words ringing in my ears. But instead of anger or pain, the overwhelming feeling that washed over me was relief. I knew exactly what I had to do. The first stop on my drive home from the airport was not my apartment. It was the luxury car rental office where Audra's leased Mercedes, a necessary business expense she had convinced me to co-sign for, was registered. I explained the situation to the manager, a woman with kind, weary eyes, paid the hefty early termination fee without flinching, and handed over the keys. "Happens more often than you'd think," she said with a sympathetic nod. Severing that tie felt like cutting a financial anchor. Next, I called a moving and storage company. "I need to move someone's belongings out of my apartment while they're away on a trip," I explained, expecting questions. The woman on the phone didn't bat an eye. "Breakup packing? We have a white glove service for that." I scheduled them for the following day and paid for 3 months of storage up front. Another expense. But the price of freedom was worth every penny. My final stop was the hardware store for new locks and a video doorbell. The rational part of me knew this was necessary. Her name wasn't on the lease, and she hadn't contributed a single dollar to our housing in 6 months. As I was loading the supplies into my car, a notification popped up on my phone. Audra had posted her first Miami story, a boomerang of champagne glasses clinking against a backdrop of South Beach. The caption was a string of hashtags: number work trip, number girl boss, number blessed. There was no mention of me. I was already being edited out of the narrative. That evening, I began the strange, methodical task of sorting through her life, which had completely colonized my own. It took 17 large boxes to pack her wardrobe, 6 more for her makeup and skincare, 4 for her tripods, ring lights, and content creation gear. As I worked, I had a startling realization. Almost nothing in our shared space actually belonged to me. My woodworking tools were banished to a closet because they ruined the aesthetic. My engineering textbooks were hidden behind decorative covers that matched her color scheme. I had been systematically erased from my own home. The next morning, the moving team arrived. They were efficient and discreet. By noon, every trace of Audra Croft was gone. While they worked, I made calls. I closed our joint bank account, removed her as an authorized user on my credit cards, and canceled the coffee shop tab I'd been paying for her daily lattes. With each call, I felt lighter, as if I was methodically dismantling a structure that was about to collapse on top of me. By Wednesday evening, the demolition was complete. The new locks were installed. Her belongings were in a secure storage unit. Our financial ties were severed. I even changed the Netflix and Spotify passwords. Then came the best part, the reconstruction. I went to the second bedroom, her former content studio, and brought my woodworking tools up from the basement. I assembled a proper workbench and mounted my tools on the wall. The scent of sawdust replaced the faint smell of perfume and setting spray. I reclaimed the living room, arranging the furniture for comfort, not for the camera. My books came out of hiding. I hung the abstract metal sculpture my brother had made for me, the one she deemed not on brand. By Friday night, the apartment looked like me again. It felt like me. I ordered a pizza, cracked open a beer, and sat in the peaceful solitude. There were no staged dinner photos, no interruptions to capture the perfect lighting. It was just real life, unfiltered and beautifully imperfect. That weekend, I started rebuilding my social life. I called my friend Leo, the one whose party had started this whole mess. "Man, it's been months," he said when we met for a beer at a dive bar she had always refused to go to. "What's this drama Audra's posting?" I gave him the short version, ending with the 5 words at the airport. He shook his head. "She actually said that? Jesus, Elias. We all kind of saw it coming. Nobody's buying her victim story. We've all seen how she's been treating you for months." His words were a comfort, a confirmation that I hadn't been crazy. The curated life she presented online might have fooled her thousands of followers, but the people who knew us in real life had seen the cracks in the foundation all along. A few weeks later, I did something I'd wanted to do for years. I booked a 2-week motorcycle trip down the Pacific Coast Highway. I needed the open road, the feeling of moving forward under my own power. The trip was transformative. I rode from the misty forests of Washington to the sun-drenched cliffs of California. I took photos of engineering marvels, the soaring arches of bridges, the intricate designs of coastal highways, not for likes, but for my own fascination. I spent hours just watching the ocean, feeling no compulsion to document the sunset for anyone's approval but my own. In a small town in Oregon, I stumbled upon a woodworking cooperative. I spent an entire afternoon talking shop with a 70-year-old former architect who now made custom dining tables. I got tired of designing spaces people only use to impress others, he told me, his hands worn and wise. Now I make things people actually live with. It's more honest work. His words resonated so deeply, they felt like they were rearranging my own internal structure. That night, sitting in my tent, I started recording a video on my phone, more like a personal journal than anything else. I talked about the physics of the Bixby Creek Bridge, the joinery techniques I'd learned from the old man in Oregon, the meditative rhythm of long-distance riding. On a whim, I edited it together and uploaded it to YouTube, calling the channel Structural Integrity. I figured a few fellow engineers might find it interesting. I didn't expect to get a notification 3 days later. Your video has reached 10,000 views. People left comments praising the lack of hype, the authentic passion, the informative content. It turned out there was an audience for reality. By the time I returned to Denver, my impromptu channel had 5,000 subscribers. The irony was staggering. While Audra had meticulously crafted a brand based on what she thought people wanted, I had accidentally built a following by simply being myself. When I walked back into my apartment, smelling of road dust and sea salt, I felt like I was truly home for the first time in a very long time. The space was mine. The aesthetic was mine. The life was mine. I had found my original blueprint. The inevitable confrontation happened a month after my trip. I was leaving my office building when I saw her waiting on a bench near the entrance. She looked different, more like the woman I'd first met, in simple jeans and with her hair pulled back. For a brief, dangerous moment, my heart softened. Then she spoke. "Your little YouTube channel is doing well," she said, her tone a sharp, competitive edge. There was no greeting, no apology. 18,000 subscribers now, right? Not bad for someone who knows nothing about content creation. The softness in my chest hardened back into resolve. This wasn't about closure, this was about business. "What do you want, Audra?" She stood up, smoothing her jeans in a gesture I now recognized as performative. "I thought we should talk about a collaboration. Your engineering angle, my lifestyle content. It could be a unique offering. We could cross-promote." "Oh." I stared at her, genuinely speechless. After everything, the lies, the manipulation, the soul-crushing humiliation at the airport, she saw what was left of our relationship as a potential brand partnership. "Let me get this straight," I said slowly, making sure I understood. "You want to leverage my success for your content. It would be mutually beneficial," she insisted, her eyes gleaming with the thrill of the pitch. "Your followers are mostly men, mine are women. We could dominate different demographics." I shook my head, a profound sense of disbelief washing over me. "You told me not to walk next to you because I would embarrass you. Now you want to put me in your videos?" "That was a momentary lapse in judgment," she said, waving a dismissive hand. "I was stressed. You know how important first impressions are." "Our entire relationship was a momentary lapse in judgment," I replied, the words tasting like freedom. "And no, Audra, I don't want to collaborate. I don't want to cross-promote. I want nothing to do with your carefully constructed reality." Her expression hardened. The mask of the charming, relatable girl was gone, replaced by the cold face of a thwarted businesswoman. "You're making a mistake, Elias. I have connections. I could help you get to 100,000 subscribers in months. I'd rather have 100 subscribers who value authenticity than 1,000,000 who are just there for a performance," I said. I stepped around her and started walking away. "This isn't over," she called after me. "You'll regret this when some bigger influencer steals your concept and does it better." I didn't look back. Some structures are damaged beyond repair. Some bridges aren't worth rebuilding. 6 months have passed since that day. My life is unrecognizable in the best possible way. My YouTube channel, Structural Integrity, now has over 100,000 subscribers. I post videos about engineering, woodworking, and my travels. It's honest work. The woodworking hobby has become a side business. I sell custom furniture through a local gallery and am even considering a sabbatical from my firm to pursue it further. As for Audra, I hear through the grapevine that her influencer career stalled. Without my apartment as her backdrop and my income as her safety net, the aspirational lifestyle became impossible to maintain. Her Instagram is still active, but it's scaled back, focusing on local coffee shops instead of luxury retreats. I don't wish her ill will. In a strange way, I'm grateful. Those 5 cruel words at the airport were the most painful I've ever heard, but they were also the doorway to my freedom. They were the seismic shock that brought a toxic structure crashing down, clearing the way for me to build something new, something real, something with integrity.